Big news out of Connecticut as a Democrat judge has overturned the results of the mayoral primary election in Bridgeport and ordered a new election be held after bombshell video evidence of election fraud was found. Let's play some video here. Now remember, we were told that these types of things don't happen. Elections are free and clear. No evidence of fraud. At least that's what they said about 2020. Let's check it out.
Words election fraud have been thrown around way too many times in the past few years without any serious evidence to back up those claims. But tonight...
Okay, don't listen to this clown. He says there were no serious evidence to back up those claims. I guess he has not seen 2,000 Mules. I guess he has not studied the Mark Zuckerbergs flowing in. We'll get into that later.
An election for mayor has just been thrown out by a judge who concluded that fraud did impact a recent vote and ordered a new election. And it was based on absentee ballots. Happened in Bridgeport, Connecticut, where a state Superior Court judge has just ordered a new election between incumbent Mayor Joe Ganim and his mayoral primary opponent, John Gomez, after Gomez successfully argued that he was the victim of absentee ballot fraud. Stunning video put out by the Gomez campaign appeared to show a Bridgeport city employee and local Democratic Party official walking up to a drop box in the early hours of the morning of September 5th and making multiple deposits of absentee ballots. You can see a woman who the Gomez campaign identifies as Bridgeport City Hall employee Wanda Jeter Patiki walking up to the drop box.
Look what we have here.
And placing multiple ballots inside. Then a few seconds later, she comes back, does it again. The Gomez campaign posted this on social media as part of a 3-minute compilation showing irregularities in the vote. That woman was questioned during a court hearing challenging the election results and pleaded the fifth.
Were you paid for any of your work on the Ganim campaign? I would object at this point.
And it wasn't just her. The Gomez campaign played in court 9 different people making 24 drops of apparently multiple ballots into absentee ballot boxes. In his ruling, Connecticut State Superior Court Judge William Clark said he found the evidence from the Gomez campaign credible, said there was enough evidence to call the entire election into question. Quote, in this case, there is evidence of partisans taking possession and harvesting ballots to engage in bulk drops of the absentee ballots into drop boxes. The number of ballots at issue when considering the corroborating evidence of the video and documentary evidence brings the reliability of the primary into serious doubt. Judge Clark has ordered the two sides and city election officials to come together on a new date for a revote by November 17th, but there's...
Okay. This is exactly what we have been trying to tell people. If you understand what happened here in this little mayoral primary race, you'll understand what happened in 2020. If you have not seen 2,000 Mules, please watch it because there is tons of video evidence of people stuffing ballots. I'm talking suitcases full of ballots, backpacks or whatever it is, stuffing ballots in broad daylight and some at night. You saw a guy with different people going in different locations. I think one guy went to 28 different spots, stuffing these ballot boxes with absentee ballots, mail-in ballots, things like that. But they said there's no evidence of fraud in 2020. No evidence at all whatsoever. But if you can understand what happened here in this local election, just imagine that on a county-wide scale, on a statewide level, multiple states, then you'll understand what happened in 2020.
All sorts of details there. This is a wild story. Let's bring in Bill Bloss. He is the attorney for Bridgeport mayoral candidate John Gomez. Thanks so much for coming on. Appreciate it. All right. So first of all, just take us through what happened and what the judge has found here.
Well, this was probably the clearest case of ballot harvesting that I think has been proven really in the United States. There was repeated video, but around 20 different instances of campaign officials or others dropping multiple absentee ballots.
The clearest case he's ever seen in the United States. And that's fine, all, but I don't think that is the only time we've seen something like this happen. Actually, it's not.
Into the drop boxes in a couple of locations. Clearly, under Connecticut law, these were people that were not entitled legally to possess absentee ballots. There was pretty strong evidence that there was a coordinated effort to try to collect absentee ballots from voters. And of course, under our law, they're not supposed to do that. They're supposed to, this is basically, absentee ballots are supposed to have the same sanctity as the voting booth. And just as you couldn't bring in one of these people into the voting booth, you shouldn't be handing them your absentee ballot.
Yeah.
But it was a pretty jarring case, and the video, Judge Clark called it shocking. I think most people would share that.
So what happens now? I mean, there's going to be an election on the 7th of November, right? With the current mayor's name on the ballot, correct?
Correct, and also John Gomes, my client, is also going to be on the ballot on a minor party line, on the independent party line. So this is the alternative. There are several alternatives that could happen here. If John Gomes wins on Tuesday, then the case is over. If Mayor Ganim wins on Tuesday, then there would be a new primary sometime, probably in December, I would guess, and then a new election sometime in January if Gomes wins the primary. So it's it's not an ideal situation by any stretch of the imagination, but it is a situation that is caused by massive absentee ballot misconduct. That's the reason we're here. That's the reason we're in this situation.
Thank you for watching.
What he just said right there is exactly what we've been trying to say. It's misconduct with these absentee ballots, with these mail-in ballots. And the New York Times talked about this back in 2012. Yes, Democrat-leaning 2012, far-left New York Times, I should say, mentioned this in 2012 in an article saying that there were significant issues with mail-in ballots. They pose a significant danger to a fraud. Even former President Jimmy Carter said the same thing, that these mail-in ballots, these absentee ballots, can cause are ripe for fraud. And they were absolutely right. But all of a sudden, when our side comes out and says there was fraud in 2020 with these mass mail-in ballots going out all over the country, and especially in these swing states, because you had Mark Zuckerberg pumping in $419 million into the 2020 election and putting a good portion of that money into swing states, Biden-leaning counties and districts, juicing up the vote and get out the vote efforts, taking control over the election process, overseeing the election process with Democrat operatives, I should say, county clerks and people like that, which had control over the process, as I said. So this is what we have here, is what happened on a smaller scale. We had these clerks stuffing ballots, who were overseeing the process, stuffing ballots, multiple locations. This is the exact same thing we saw in 2000 Mules. We saw it in Georgia. We saw it in Pennsylvania. We saw it in Wisconsin. We saw it in Arizona. And I believe I'm missing one. It was tried in about 5 or 6 different states. The states that were needed to win, the swing states, I should say. But, this is a clear-cut video right here. And they've called us crazy. But we're not crazy. They just didn't want to look at the evidence. Now, when they said there was no election fraud, there's no standing, there's no evidence. People just were not looking at it. They didn't want to look at the evidence. They didn't want to take a look into it. That's all we wanted to do, was take a look into the evidence that we were presenting. Look at the video footage. Look at the affidavits. All these different things that were brought forward. But, whatever. It is what it is now, and this is where we are. We have Joe Biden. Yeah. Listen, we also don't want to get into the Hunter Biden laptop suppression, which is a different type of fraud, a different type of rigging. But you know what? Kudos to this judge here for doing the right thing. It was a local election, but all elections matter. Local elections are very important because they directly impact you and your family, more so than national elections in a lot of cases. That's why it's so important to get involved in your local races. Get out there, knock on doors, call people, vote, early vote, whatever you have to do. These county races, these mayoral races, these judge races, these are all very important to your daily life and your well-being. Yeah, but that's my take on this situation. I just wanted you to see that because we had a video evidence here of ballot stuffing, and this is what we talked about back in 2020. But all right, guys, thanks for listening. Like and subscribe. I'll see you next time. Thank you. Take care.